Obama did say that a couple of times. He got blasted by Jesse Jackson, who accused him of, quote, talking down to black people. And so Obama kind of tiptoes around it, even though Obama knows exactly what you and I know. In a private conversation, I'm sure that Obama would be completing our sentences, but he dare not say anything because he'd be canceled. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and make sure you click the link below to make sure you get our exclusive email list. Why? Well, believe it or not, from time to time, YouTube still shuts down our videos. We recently put up one about COVID and about our response to COVID. It was taken down. Even though all it was an exchange between an individual and a pharmacist in Canada. All we did was play it. And the pharmacist got chewed out because the pharmacist did not advise the man's wife who took his kid to get a vaccine that there could be some problems, including some heart condition problems. Well, the kid developed a heart condition, and all we did was put up that video. We said nothing about it. We didn't make any medical judgment. I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on TV, and YouTube took it down. So click the link below. Get our email list to make sure you get all of our videos, including those that are banned by YouTube. Please welcome back to the show, John Lott. John Lott is the founder and president of the Crime Prevention Research Center. The website is crimeresearch.org. Now, let's talk about Biden's law and order speech he gave in Pennsylvania. Here's a little bit of it, John.
When it comes to public safety in this nation, the answer is not defund the police. It's fund the police. Fund the police. And give them... We expect them to do everything. We expect them to protect us, to be psychologists, and to be sociologists. I mean, we expect you to do everything. I'm not joking. Everything. You realize more police officers are killed dealing with domestic violence than anything else? You realize that? The point is, we ask so much of you. So much of you. I've not met a cop who likes a bad cop. There's bad in everything. There's lousy senators, there's lousy presidents, there's lousy doctors, there's lousy lawyers. No, I'm serious. But I don't know any police officer that feels good about the fact that there may be a lousy cop. And I'm tired of not giving the kind of help they need. Folks, look, we're in a situation in this country where we have to give them additional resources they need to get their job done.
John, where do you start with this? This is a guy who says the answer is not to defund the police, it's to fund the police, when his rhetoric was very different during the 2020 campaign, rather. He was talking about proposing reform.
Right. Well, he was also talking about taking money away from police and giving it for social welfare people and other things. So that's pretty much the defunding the police line. Look, do I believe that having more police is good in terms of reducing crime? Yes, certainly I do. You know, the $13 billion that he wants to go and spend on police and training of police, is beneficial in terms of reducing crime. You know, it's not the $80 billion that he wants to spend on hiring new IRS agents, but it's moving in the right direction. But here's the problem. It's not serious the way he's put it together, because police themselves will tell you about how frustrated they are that when they go and arrest people, that they're immediately back on the streets. If Biden was actually serious in terms of reducing crime, he would look at things like left-wing Democratic district attorneys across the country, George Soros-backed ones, who are refusing to prosecute violent criminals. He would go and talk about the bail reform that's been occurring in places from California to New York, and even places like Harris County in Texas. He would go and talk about liberal judges across the country, which have released, in some urban areas, more than half the inmates from jails that are there. You know, it's not rocket science what's been happening here in terms of crime rates. If you make it so it's not as risky for criminals to go and commit crime, you're going to see more crime that's occurring. Police are part of the legal system that's important to function properly, but he won't talk about any of the other parts of it. And, you know, he wants to go and use this speech to go and attack Republicans as being against funding the police, supposedly. even liberal fact checkers from the Washington Post and factcheck.org have taken him to task for being misleading and dishonest on those types of claims. But does he go and mention that New York City has cut the police budget by $1 billion a year? Does he mention that Chicago, just in 2020 alone, cut the number of positions for police by 400 and cut them even further in each year after that? Does he mention the cuts in policing in Los Angeles or San Francisco or Portland or Seattle? You know, the thing is, if he was really serious about this, he would deal with have kind of a Sister Soldier type moment, where he would point out how you have to have the entire legal system operate. Simply arresting people, having more police to arrest people, isn't going to solve the problem if you're not willing to go and punish them for the crimes that they've committed.
John, while you're talking about some of the things that he has not mentioned, of course, Biden and other Democrats don't mention the breakdown of the nuclear family, which is causing all of this crime and, these kids who are raised without fathers. And there's a direct connection between that and crime. And of course, he wouldn't go even close to talking about that.
I mean, Obama at least mentioned that once or twice, so at least, but Biden refuses to go and mention that. I agree with you. That's a very important factor, and it's one of the long leftover implications from the welfare.
When Obama did say that a couple of times, he got blasted by Jesse Jackson, who accused him of, quote, talking down to black people. And so Obama kind of tiptoes around it, even though Obama knows exactly what you and I know. In a private conversation, I'm sure that Obama would be completing our sentences, but he dare not say anything because he'd be canceled. He's also done, by the way, done a 180 on reparations. Remember, throughout his career, he was asked about reparations when he was a state senator from Illinois, U.S. senator, and even early presidency. He also always said he was opposed to reparations. He's now flipped on that, John. He's afraid he's going to get canceled.
Well, Biden's been supporting reparations, so look, minorities, people who live in high crime urban areas get hurt by crime in many different ways. It's just not the direct being victims of violent crime.
Right.
But where do you think the businesses are that are being hurt?
Right.
Who owns some of those businesses? Who works in those businesses? Who shops in many of those businesses? Who owns houses in many of those parts of town?
Right.
It's heavily Black or Hispanic areas. They get hurt in many different ways. When you have higher crime rates, what do you think happens to the willingness of businesses to open in those areas? What do you think happens to housing prices for the people that owned houses in those areas? What do you think happens to the quality of schools and other things when you have that type of crime? Those are the people that are harmed. Even the ones who aren't direct victims of violent crime are still victims from the side effects from those types of crimes.
As you and I have talked about, in many cases, blacks are in charge of the powers, the levers of power in these places. A few years ago, Freddie Gray, we talked about this before, I think, John, you and I did, in Baltimore, died in police custody. And look at the entire apparatus of the city of Baltimore. At the time, the number one and number two people running the police department were black. The county and city superintendent of schools was black. The mayor was black. City council, all Democrat, majority black. The state attorney who brought the charges against 6 officers was black. 3 of the 6 officers black. A judge before whom 2 of the officers tried their cases is black, found them not guilty. And the U.S. attorney at the time, Loretta Lynch, is black, as was the president. The entire apparatus of the city of Baltimore was black, and still you have the same activists when there's something like what happened to Freddie Gray running around talking about systemic racism. It's a joke.
Look, I'm always puzzled why blacks vote for Democrats on these types of things. They're the ones whose lives have been destroyed by these policies that are there. Whether it's schooling, the quality of schooling, I don't understand why there's not. I know blacks generally support vouchers and school choice type things, but you would think it would be a defining issue that would determine who they voted for.
13 public high schools in Baltimore. 0% of the kids can do math at grade level. Another half dozen urban Baltimore schools where only 1% can. That's almost half of the public schools in Baltimore where the kids are either 0% or 1% math proficient. And again, as I pointed out, both the county and the city superintendent of schools are black.
Well, look at the school shutdowns that we've had over the last couple of years. The kids who have been hurt by far the most are lower income minority children. And, this is going to stick with them for the rest of their lives, this lack of education, this big black hole in their educational career here. Their lives are going to be damaged going forward.
Now, do you have your My Pillow yet? What's that? You don't have a My Pillow yet? You're sleeping on an old pillow? One that won't give you the same kind of comfort and sleep and serenity that the great Oldersky gets because he sleeps every night on a My Pillow, My Pillow, My Pillow? Go to mypillow.com, use promo code ELDER, or call the number on your screen. And remember, it's not just My Pillows we're talking about. We're talking about towels. We're talking about slippers. We're talking about sheets. We're talking about over 100 products that you can get on mypillow.com, provided you use promo code ELDER. All right? Next time I see you, hope you have on a pair of My Pillow slippers. John, let's get back to a couple of things that Biden said in his speech before I let you go. You mentioned that Biden referred to AR-style semi-automatic weapons as, quote, weapons of war, close quote.
Right. Well, I mean, look, even the left-wing Associated Press, their style book, which I'm sure you and I would find many things that would outrage us in there, has recently come out and said that calling them weapons of war is simply incorrect. The AR-15s that he's going after are civilian guns that are semi-automatic. No military around the world uses them. And so it's just improper to go and call them weapons of war. So, even the Associated Press, but he doesn't seem to care about accuracy on that.
Another one, he said, quote, the bullet out of an AR-15 travels 5 times as rapidly as a bullet shot out of any other gun, end of quote.
I mean, it's just not, I don't even know why the fact checkers just start falling off their chairs laughing when he makes statements like that. I mean, it's just an absurd statement. Plenty of guns, plenty of ammunition that actually goes faster in terms of velocity than an AR-15's .223 rounds do.
Quote, there are certain gun dealers, said Biden, that are basically not gun dealers. They're wholesalers providing the weapons to anybody who have the money, end of quote.
Look, if Biden knows that, he should get them arrested and put them in jail, okay? But that's not what he's doing, and it's not what his policy deals with. What Biden has is the so-called zero tolerance policy for gun dealers who have any types of paperwork mistakes. So what they want to do is look over the last 15 years or so of all the paperwork that these gun dealers have done. And if they find any typo, any paperwork mistake, no matter how trivial, no matter how inconsequential, they're taking away their license and putting them out of business. Just in the last year, the Biden administration has put thousands, literally thousands of gun dealers out of business already for these types of paperwork mistakes. I mean, Epic TV, I'm sure you guys run a great, tight ship, but do you think if I looked or had accountants look at last 15 years of paperwork, they'd find a typo, one paperwork mistake someplace there? Should we put you out of business because you have one typo, one paperwork mistake? I mean, is there any business in the country that would do it? Unfortunately, all the Democratic senators recently voted to confirm Biden's new head of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms.
Right.
Even people from like John Tester from Montana and Joe Manchin from West Virginia. And he's kicked this type of zero tolerance policy into high gear now on that. So, maybe they can explain to their constituents why you have such a policy that's literally just designed to put part of this industry out of business.
John, 2 more things I want to ask you about. He also said this, and I'm quoting, more children die from guns than active duty police and active duty military personnel combined, end of quote.
What does one do with something like that? First of all, I'm not sure what years he's looking at there, but if he's talking about active duty soldiers, we weren't at war. Okay, I mean, I know
Right.
you had the bombing deaths last year and his evacuation, but prior to that, there had been no American soldiers shot for, I guess, like 18 months or something like that.
Right.
So it's zero. It's kind of hard not to have a number that would be higher than zero on that. And in the United States, you have something over the last decade, you have something between like a low of 27 police officers killed to a high of, let's say, 55. I don't know what age group he's looking at in
Right.
terms of children. Often these things are like under 20 or something like that. But if you want to add 50 to zero there, anyway, I don't know.
Exactly. And finally, John, Labor Day weekend, Chicago, 49 people shot. This is a city that has among the strictest gun laws of any city in America. And Illinois was the first state to do cashless bail.
If you want to go and reduce the amount of crime, you have to make it risky for criminals to commit crime. When the younger Mayor Daley became mayor, the arrest rate in Chicago for murder was about 67%. By the time he left, it was down to 30%. When Rahm Emanuel left being mayor, it was down to 20%. And in recent years, it's bounced as low as about 12%, though it seems to be back up a little bit now. And there are lots of clear policies that have contributed to that. When Rahm Emanuel became mayor, he closed down the district police offices in the highest crime rate parts of the city. He moved police to low crime areas. This is not what you want to do. He shut down gang units that were there. Guess what? You have more gang activity that's occurring. One of the agreements that he made was with the ACLU, so that every time a police officer talks to somebody, they have to go and fill out 2 legal pages of small print of questions that deal with who they talk to, why they talk to them, where they talk to them, what they talk to them about. It takes about anything from 45 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes on average to go and fill out the form for each person they talk to. So you're a police officer and you talk to 4 people in the morning. Your entire afternoon is filled up taking care of paperwork, just talking to those people that's there. And has it been used for anything? No. It's just been extra paperwork and taking police off the street in order to go and do stupid paperwork. It's just crazy stuff that's there. But it's the same thing as effectively as reducing the number of police officers in the city. We've had all sorts of push from the Biden administration that is imposing all sorts of additional rules and restrictions on police that makes it harder for them to go and do their jobs. It's not surprising that you see the type of crime that you are talking about there. And of course, then on top of everything else, you have Kim Foxx, which is the district attorney for the area there. Just this last fall, there was one amazing case. 2 gangs shooting at each other in broad daylight. One person was killed. A couple people were seriously wounded, had to go to the hospital. It was all caught on high definition video, so they could see who was firing the gun. And police were actually witnesses to some of that. But the district attorney's office decided not to press charges against any of the gang members because, quote, the initial argument was, quote, they had engaged in mutually agreed to combat.
Unbelievable.
And so they changed their story eventually, saying that they didn't have enough evidence. But even Mayor Lori Lightfoot, who used to be a prosecutor, who's hardly even a moderate by your definition or my definition, very liberal, said that this was nuts. That they had all this evidence, more evidence that they usually have for almost any murder or any shooting. And she couldn't believe that Kim Foxx's office, George Soros-supported prosecutor, who I think he spent like $2 million getting her elected, was unwilling to prosecute those individuals.
Well, John, we're going to have to leave it there. John Lott, president of the Crime Prevention Research Center. The website is crimeresearch.org. As always, John, thank you so much for your time. God bless.
Thank you for being there, Larry. God bless you.
You got it. Hope you enjoyed that video. The full show is available to watch right now on Epoch TV. Just click the link in the description below to learn more, because we've got a country to save.